Hey everyone, welcome to the Attorney Cat podcast, the place where curiosity meets creativity and big ideas come to life. I'm your host, Alessandro Concas, entrepreneur, author, and lifelong learner, and I'm so excited you're here. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a moment to thank one of our amazing sponsors who helps make this show possible, LASCSCV, the Los Angeles Soccer Club of Santa Clarita Valley. LASCSCV isn't just about soccer, it's about leadership, teamwork, and building confidence in young people, both on and off the field. When kids join a program like lascscv.org, they're not only learning to play better, they're learning to grow as people, how to set goals, support their teammates, and discover what it means to lead with passion and discipline. I honestly love seeing how organizations like LASCSCV give kids a place to belong, to develop character, and to experience success through effort and teamwork. Values that totally align with what we talk about here on the Attorney Cat podcast. So, a huge thank you to LASCSCV for sponsoring the show and for the incredible work they're doing to empower the next generation of young athletes and leaders. If you're in the Santa Clarita Valley area, or if you just want to see how sports can build strong minds and strong hearts, check out lascscv.org and see how you can get involved. Now let's get into today's conversation where we'll explore how passion and consistency shape success, whether you're launching a business or scoring goals on the field. Mayor Miranda, it's so great to have you here today. Honestly, I've been really looking forward to this. Thank you for joining me on the Attorney Cat podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And most importantly, I'm excited to be your very first guest on the podcast. You have a wonderful opportunity here to get the word out to a lot of people, not only about you personally and the talents you have to offer to the community. You're an author, you're a musician, you're a leader, all those wonderful things we want young people to do in our community. And so I salute you for that. I'm here to let everybody know that A, I support you, and B, anything going on in the city, I'd be more than happy to share.
Well, that's really inspiring. Thank you. So I'd like to get started on our questions. I have a couple of questions here that I'd like to ask you. So, Mr. Mayor, for young listeners who may not know you yet, how would you introduce yourself in a few sentences?
Okay, well, in a few sentences, that's hard for me to do because I like to talk, but I'll do it anyway. In a few sentences, I'm Bill Miranda, the mayor of the city of New York, yeah, right. The mayor of the city of Santa Clarita. I was born in New York, went into the Air Force as a young man, went into the corporate world after that, became a corporate executive for a Fortune 500 company. Then I decided to start my own business, started two businesses almost at the same time in the systems industry, barcoding systems industry. Was very successful with both businesses. And then I went into consulting, became a consultant, a business consultant, and again, quite successful at doing that. And then I decided to go into service, if you will, service to my community. And I started the Latino Chamber of Commerce here in Santa Clarita. That was very successful. We merged it with the big Chamber of Commerce eventually. It's now the Latino Business Alliance. And then I decided to run for city council. I won, and I've been on the council for 9 years.
Wow, that's great. So you grew up in New York City, served in the U.S. Air Force, and later worked for major companies like IBM and Xerox. What are one or two key lessons from that journey that shaped who you are today?
Well, I think at IBM, you learn to assert yourself, be a leader, not just another person on the team, but to be a leader, to go out into the public and speak effectively, speak clearly, learn how to deal with different personality traits. Okay, there's some people that like their information quick and concise. There's some people that like their information flowered, slow and easy. And so you learn the different types of conversations you can have with the different types of personality traits. So I learned from IBM. At Xerox, I learned more about leadership and inclusivity. I was at Xerox during the time when Xerox was leading the world as a corporation in diversity. And so I learned diversity. I learned the importance of diversity. I learned the blessings we get when we work within a diverse world as opposed to within ourselves. And so affirmative action started while I was at Xerox and many other things that Xerox led the world in. So I was very blessed to be there at that time. I have to add, I went from Xerox to another Fortune 500 company, a computer company, a big computer company called Data General Corporation. And at that corporation, I became vice president of marketing and sales for Data General Europe. And my family and I were stationed in Paris, France, which was always a thrill for us. And just saying it makes me smile because it was a good time. But more importantly, it was a good learning experience for me. And I took all of those things from each of those companies into, when I started my own businesses, into my own businesses. And even though my businesses were small businesses, what you learn in the large corporations can translate to small businesses.
That sounds really cool. So next question. You've been in Santa Clarita for decades. What made you fall in love with this city and want to serve it as mayor?
Okay, so I mentioned that I was living in Paris, and when I got reassigned to Los Angeles, I called a friend of mine. I was living in Paris, called a friend of mine who lived in Southern California, and I asked him to send me the LA Times real estate section. So he sent me the LA Times real estate section. I'm sitting in my living room with my wife, going through the real estate section, and all of a sudden there's this full-page ad that says, "Come home to Valencia." As a new development, new housing. It looked exciting. And so when I came back to California, the first thing I did was come check out Valencia. And sure enough, what's not to fall in love with? They had beautiful housing, affordable at that time. They had wonderful schools. I had 3 kids. I wanted to make sure they go to good schools. And they had paseos. They had Lake Castaic. They had Magic Mountain. They had the promise of a mall to be built soon. Took 5 years, but what the heck. So it was easy to fall in love with Valencia.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1987, we merged with Newhall, Canyon Country, and Saugus and became the city of Santa Clarita, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's great. You were first appointed to the city council in 2017 and later served multiple terms, including as mayor in 2021 and again in 2025. What motivated you to make the jump from business and community work into city leadership?
Well, I think what motivated me was a number of things, but the most important thing was I had retired. I had retired from the corporate world. I had sold my businesses and retired from the business world. I'd done some business consulting, but I pretty much had retired from that. Mostly I was working with nonprofits. I was working with Single Mothers Outreach, Bridge to Home, Family Promise, and it was a great experience helping the community. And so when a vacancy occurred on the city council, people said to me, "Why don't you go for the vacancy? And you can help the community even more." So I did, and I was appointed out of 51 other candidates, 50 other candidates. I was the 51st. I was the one that won the job. And then in 2018, we campaigned to stay on the job, and we won that one. And then in 2022, campaigned again and really won that one overwhelmingly. And so I became mayor in 2021 and 2025. All those things have been blessings from heaven, and I'm grateful for every single one of them. But more importantly, I'm grateful for having the opportunity to have helped so many people in our community.
I'm grateful that you're our mayor too.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what does a day in the life of the mayor of Santa Clarita look like, especially when it comes to making decisions that affect families and young people?
Yeah. One of the things you do as mayor is you do a lot of ceremonial things. Okay. You do business openings, you do grand openings of parks, you do school events, other public events. You continue to help nonprofits, and a lot of those things are ceremonial. But the things that really have an impact on young people and the community at large is the votes that you make or the votes that you take for adding business into the community. So when I say adding business into the community, I'm talking about economic vitality within the community, because as much as we don't like to think of a community as money, if you don't have money, you don't have parks. If you don't have money, you don't have wonderful paseos. If you don't have money, you don't have things like streets, paved streets. Okay. You don't have places for homeless people. So there are a lot of young people, by the way, that go to COC that live in their cars. And so we're trying to build more and more shelters so that they can have a bed and a bathroom and food, and if necessary, clothing. And so they can live somewhat normal lives. And we try to give young people a hand up, not necessarily a handout. A hand up is so much more valuable because we help young people and we help give them the tools to be successful in life.
Well, that sounds a very noble mission.
It is. But it takes two to tango, as they say. The young people have to participate. They have to do their thing. And I'm a big believer that just because we're an older generation, we shouldn't expect our younger generations to follow in our footsteps. What we should expect is the younger generations to do their thing, but being knowledgeable of what the history of the community has done and achieved or not achieved. So you young generation, think for yourselves, right? Do what you think is best. Look at the past and learn from the past, but that doesn't mean you have to follow the past. And the one thing you have that we've lost is energy. You've got energy. You've got clearer visions. You know this technology much better than we'll ever know the technology. And with the technology at where it is today, to get ahead of the world, you have to be technically knowledgeable, not just cell phone, but you have to be able to think ahead. You know, what a car is going to look like 10 years from now. So you're 15 when you're 25. What's the world going to look like? Well, at the rate technology is growing, we can't predict what it's going to look like in 2025. We're lucky if we can predict what it's going to look like in 2027. So I'm excited for your generation. I sometimes get a little hesitant when I see some members of your generation doing things that I might not necessarily agree with, but I'm overwhelmed with confidence when I see people like you that are serious about your lives, that are want to contribute to our society, that want to be successful. But your definition of success is not the same as my definition of success. Okay. Our generation was very materialistic. Why? Because we came from people who survived the Depression. And the Depression caused a lot of serious problems to a lot of families. And so my generation became very materialistic, and we gathered things and collected things and got fancy cars and fancy houses and 3 cars in a family of 2 people. Come on. But we did that because that's how we define success. Your generation has a different way of defining success. I think, and if I may, I think your generation says quality of life is better than quantity of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. So you're looking for quality of life, quality not just for yourselves, but for your families and for your communities, and that's good.
Yeah, well, I think everyone has their own definitions of success, and yeah, and I think I think a lot of our listeners will be very inspired after listening to this conversation. So, next question. You've described you've been described as a community leader who champions minority causes. Can you share a moment when you really felt the impact of that work?
Oh my goodness, I can share many moments. On the council, we declared, I joined the council in 2017. Well, in 2017, I asked the council to acknowledge Martin Luther King Day. I asked the council to acknowledge Black History Month. I asked the council to acknowledge Hispanic Heritage Month. I asked the council to acknowledge Filipino American Heritage Month. I asked the council to acknowledge LGBTQ plus community. That hadn't been done before except for the Hispanic Heritage Month. None of the rest had been done before. And the impact, seeing these things passed by the council, the entire council, almost unanimous on every issue, that was heartwarming, because all of a sudden we didn't become a city of, and pardon the expression, only cowboys. We became a city of different cultures, different nationalities that and I'm going to interrupt myself. There's a thing called when Americans come together, you become Americans. And I get that. That's called the melting pot. We all melt to become Americans. What people forget is that there's another thing called the mosaic. The mosaic, we're all Americans, just like the melting pot, but we had one thing. We maintain our culture. So we're a mosaic. We look all part of the same cloth. Americans. But we're mosaic in that we're different from different cultures, and we don't want to lose that. Mm-hmm. So if somebody wanted to lose, let's say, African American, if somebody wanted to lose the African American culture, what would our music be like? For example, if somebody wanted to lose Hispanic culture, okay, what would our conversations be like? Or Italian culture. You know, your dad and I hug when we see each other. That's not typically an American thing. But we've brought that to where now you see a lot of people hugging when they see each other. When I grew up, you didn't see that. You only saw that in the Latin families. And we've added that to the culture. African Americans have added fantastic music to our American culture. So And all the cultures add something. That's the mosaic.
Yeah, I think that's very true because, I notice it's like, a lot of cultures come together to create our American culture. Um, so let's get into our next question. Santa Clarita is often recognized as a great place for young people, with lots of youth and education programs. What opportunities here should teens and young adults be taking more advantage of?
Well, for starters, as a young teen looking for work, we have Magic Mountain nearby, and so many Santa Clarita families, their children started their first jobs working for Magic Mountain. And usually it's a summer job, but it could be a year-round job. And one of my children worked at Magic Mountain. There are other things you can take advantage of in terms of work. Uh, you know, I know some people don't think of fast food as a good job, but I'll tell you, it's a very good job in terms of learning discipline, learning how to handle people, learning how to deal with changes. So it's a very good starter job. So I would think that those opportunities. We also have for entertainment. We have theaters. We have what used to be Mount Tasia. Now it's called RB1 or RB2 or something like that. I'm sorry, MB2. Yes, thank you very
Mhm.
much. Uh, and we also have paseos. We have trails. We have some of the best trails in the country. Certainly, some of the best trails in Southern California are right here in Santa Clarita. We have a skate park that exists. We have an aqua center with Olympic swimming pool. We have the Cube in Santa Clarita for ice skaters. We have 3 rinks at the Cube. We have one called the Pond for free skating. We have an Olympic size rink for Olympic skaters, but everybody can use them, but specifically Olympic skaters want to train there. And we have an NHL rink for hockey.
Mm.
And so those are 3 things that we have in that one location. And at the activity center, we not only have the skate park, but we also have the skateboarding uh, park, and we have, as I said, the aquatic center. We have a gymnasium where we play basketball, and we can play pickleball there also. So there are a lot of activities, and we have things like the Central Park concerts and the concerts in the park during the summer. We have Census on Main Street one Thursday a month. We have a thing called Celebrate at the Canyon Country Community Center one day a month, celebrating the different cultures we have here in Santa Clarita. Lots of activities right here in Santa Clarita. And if you're young and you get bored, get out and walk on one of our paseos.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot going on. It makes me think that, I should utilize them a little bit more. I mean, I've never even been to Magic Mountain.
Oh, we have to get you there.
Yeah. So next question. How can local government help young people feel that their voices matter in city decisions?
Well, that's a two-way street. That's another two-way street. We can. All our meetings are public. All our meetings are televised. All our meetings invite anyone who wants to come in and participate and speak and ask questions. We're really a transparent council, a transparent city in many ways. And so we can reach out to the young people. We visit the schools and we tell them about the city council and invite them to come. But it's up to you. It's up to you guys to come.
Mm.
Okay. And so I've been on the council for 9 years. And we get a lot of teenagers coming to the council, but most of them come because they're being awarded something. Okay. And after they get their awards, they leave. And not many of them stay to see how the council operates and what the council's discussing. So again, that's why I call it a two-way street. Young people have to want to engage. Now, in all honesty, when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a city council meeting. I didn't even know they had city councils when I was that age. But as you start a family, as you have kids that go to school, as you buy a home, and you're worried about your streets and your neighbor and your neighborhoods, and you're worried about safety, public safety, you worry about the streets, and you're worried about just everything. Okay, you'll turn to the city and you'll say, hey, tell me what's going on. And so engagement usually starts at that point, and community engagement starts at that point. Mm-hmm. So don't be too upset if a lot of the seniors aren't, coming to city council meetings and talking about city issues. You guys have a whole future to talk about things, and the most immediate thing is to get your education and start out with a good job. And if you're interested in starting a family, find the right person to starting a family with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like experience is a big factor when it comes to developing those that interest.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, if a teenager listening today wants to start getting involved, maybe through youth programs, volunteering, or city events, what is a concrete first step you'd recommend?
Okay, so the first step, if I really wanted to get involved in the community, I wouldn't say necessarily in the city, but in the community, the first place I would want to go to is to nonprofits. Mm-hmm. Every nonprofit needs some sort of help. Every nonprofit will welcome you and help you get started helping them. And so it's a good internship, if you will, to help a nonprofit. Find something that you really feel passionate about, whether it's single mothers, whether it's the homeless, whether it's food, feed the people. Food Pantry here in Santa Clarita does a great job of doing that. The Senior Center is another place that needs help all the time. We have to deliver meals to many seniors who can't come to the Senior Center to get them. Oh my God, that's where I would start. It doesn't pay money, but it pays in experience. It pays in really knowing and understanding what goes on in a community. So that would be my first start. Then after you've done that for a while and you're pretty set in your personal or family life, then I would look in terms of, do I want to go and be on the school board? Do I want to go on and be on the water board? Do I want to be a parks commissioner or an arts commissioner or a planning commissioner? Do I want to run for office? Okay, running for office is a completely different thing. Mm-hmm. You got to have thick skin for starters. Mm-hmm. If you don't have thick skin, don't run for office because you're going to get a lot of incoming from a lot of people. Some people that like you are going to give you some incoming. Mm-hmm. So you got to be very careful. Don't run for office until you're ready. If you don't have thick skin, don't ever run for office. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. But, you talked about, teenagers, internship, and I've been thinking, it sounds like, you think that that maybe experience is actually the best kind of currency.
Experience. My father used to say this all the time, because my father would say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. And my reply was always the same. I know how to do that. My father would say, no, you don't. Yeah, I do, Dad. I know how to do that. And my father would say, how could you know how to do that? You just learned how to do that, a month or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6 ago. You have no experience doing that. You just know you drive a car. You know how to turn the wheel, you know how to press the brake, and you know how to hit the gas. You know how to stop at a stop sign and a stoplight. But you don't have experience driving. You don't have the experience of anticipating what a truck is going to do, or a bus is going to do, or another driver's going to do. You don't have that experience. He was right. I got my first car, I think I was 18 years old. I grew up in New York. Can't drive till you're 18 in New York City. I got my first car. By the time 4 years were up, I had banged up about 6 cars because I thought I was cool. I thought I knew how to do this stuff, but I didn't have the experience.
Mhm.
And when things happened that I hadn't encountered before, I wasn't good at reacting.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, experience is so valuable because when we think we know everything, that's when we get in trouble. I have a philosophy: always be learning. Always be learning, whether you're 8 years old, 18 years old, or 68 years old, or 78 years old. Always be learning. We
Mhm.
can always learn.
Yeah, sometimes it's not about just theory. You have to actually live through those experiences. So, next question. You're not only a mayor, but also a local business owner and former CEO of the Santa Clarita Valley Latino Chamber of Commerce. What do you think makes a good entrepreneur, especially at a young age?
Passion, 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 passion. Be passionate about what you go into. Be passionate about what you do, because there are going to be people that are going to tell you you're crazy. There are going to be people that are going to tell you you can't do that. Some of those people might be really close to you, good friends, maybe even family members. They're going to tell you, no, don't do it. If you're not passionate enough, you're going to quit. You're going to quit when the going gets tough because you're not passionate enough. But if you're passionate enough, you're going to say, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to find another way.
Mhm.
I'm not going to quit. Be passionate about what you do. Be serious about what you do. Take your passion seriously. And, whether that means you want to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer or a firefighter or work in a warehouse, or work in a factory, or work in retail or hospitality or in the military. You notice I'm trying to name every possible job.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is, no matter what you do, you'll never be happy unless you're passionate about it and it's something you love to do.
Mhm.
And I tell people, find your passion. Find something you really enjoy doing. Don't worry about money. Do not worry about money. That's the problem we have. My generation had growing up. Right? We were so money intensive. Okay. And many of us ended up in jobs and careers that we didn't like. And then we couldn't get out because we were invested in it.
Mhm.
Okay. So your generation, my advice to your generation, because you're young and the world is open to you, is find something you love to do. You love to write. You love music. You have a lot of different loves. Find one that leads the others, that really grabs you. Says, I'm passionate. I can do this. This is the career I want.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples that are pretty well known. One is Sylvester Stallone. He wanted to be in movies. That was his passion. He wanted to be in movies. He was a theater usher. I used to watch movies, and he wanted to be in movies. He wanted to be on that screen. Nobody would hire him to be on that screen. They wouldn't. He didn't have the experience. He didn't have the coaching. He didn't have the look, they thought. So he wrote his own movie. He literally created his own characters for his own movie.
Wow.
Rocky. Rocky was Sylvester Stallone's creation because no one would give him a job. No one would give him an opportunity. But he was so passionate about it that he found a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I forget what the other example was I was going to give you, but that one alone I'll leave on the table.
Okay. And going back to the part where you mentioned that, some people even close friends might say that it's that it's impossible for you to achieve something. Like of course you want to listen to other people, but ultimately you have to listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Good. See, now you're giving me advice. You have to listen to yourself.
Mhm.
You're the decider.
Yep.
You're the decision maker. So I'll tell you another story very quickly. When I was 11, 12, 13 years old, and I was living in Harlem, New York, kind of a ghetto, I said, I want to be a jet pilot. I want to fly jets. Wow, that's exciting. I'd see movies about jet planes, and I'd see TV shows, and every once in a while I'd look up in the air and I'd see a jet plane fly by. Wow, I want to be a jet pilot. All my friends used to laugh at me. Bro, what's wrong with you? There's no way you're going to be a jet pilot. You're not smart enough. You're not, you don't know enough about any of that. You're never going to be a jet pilot. Why do you keep telling everybody you're going to be a jet pilot? I was passionate. 5 years later, I was flying a fighter jet for the United States Air Force. How does that happen without passion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and my best friends were telling me, you're crazy. My very best friends. That'll never happen. They used to laugh at me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean when by telling you that some people very close to you might be those that are telling you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So let's get into the next question. Many teens dream of starting a project, a business, or even a podcast, but feel nervous. What advice would you give a young person who has an idea but is afraid to start?
Get help. Help is everywhere. Help is everywhere. All you got to do is ask. Go to a businessman that you know. Hey, I want to start a business. What can you tell me? They'll sit with you for an hour or 2 or 3 or 5. And they'll tell you, they'll give you advice. And get other help and get more help. And pretty soon you'll find out that there are things like the Chamber of Commerce, there are things like libraries, there are things like AI on the internet.
Mhm.
Okay. And all of a sudden, help is everywhere.
Yeah.
And people want to help other people succeed. They want to. But you know what? They have to be asked. So you got to ask. Sir, ma'am, I have this idea. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I want to bounce it off you. Do you mind helping me? No, not at all.
And so I see. It's like going back to the theme of experience. Sometimes young people might not always have the experience, but they can learn stuff from the experience of others.
Perfect. That's exactly what I mean. Well
Mhm.
said.
Yeah. So, how can the city and local business community better support youth entrepreneurship in Santa Clarita?
Well, again, as a city, and you have to understand, the city government has a different mission. Okay. Our mission is to build a vitality in the city and build economic sustainability, to build public safety, quality of life, those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Training, job skills and leadership skills and all of that are not part of our mission. Now, sometimes we do some of that, but that's really not our function. But it is a function of the Chamber of Commerce. It is a function of the Valencia uh, Industry Association. It is the function of the Economic Development Corporation, and it is a function of the Small Business Development Corporation. So I just named 4 organizations that any young person could go to and get fantastic, experienced advice.
Okay. Yeah. So to our listeners, yeah, definitely make sure to check those out. And so next question. You became the first Latino mayor of Santa Clarita. What does that representation mean to you personally? And what do you hope it means for young people from diverse backgrounds here?
It's an honor and it's a responsibility. It's an honor to be the first Latino mayor ever in Santa Clarita. And by the way, I was the 14th mayor of Santa Clarita. That means 13 other mayors were not Latinos. And understand, we have a very robust population of Latinos here in Santa Clarita. We're approaching 40% of the population. So you want to ask yourself, how come it took the 14th time, the 14th mayor to be the only Latino mayor? So it's an honor, and as I said, it's a responsibility because now you're a role model. And by the way, you're always a role model. You just recognize it more when you're the mayor because people come up to you and say, I want to be like you. Okay. So I go to Newhall Elementary School that's 95% Hispanic, and I go and I make a presentation, and those kids want my autograph. My autograph. I don't give autographs. I never give autographs. Nobody ever asked me for autographs. But I go to elementary school in Newhall, and they want my autograph. Why is that? Because I'm just like them. I'm just like them, and they can relate. And now someone in Newhall Elementary School wants to become just like me. That's a responsibility. That means I have to stay on the right side of everything because I'm a role model to those kids. They look up to me because I'm Latino. Now, they might look up to me because I'm mayor, but I think they relate to me because I'm just like them.
I see. So, who were your role models growing up, and how did they influence your choices and values?
Well, I think all of us look at our parents as role models, some positively, some not so positively, but it starts with our parents. And my parents were hardworking, spiritual people who demanded that we stay on the right side of the society. Okay, no juvenile delinquency, no going to gangs, no getting tattoos, which in my era was like, whoa, you don't do that. And always, always, always help others when you can. So I grew up when a woman would go to the grocery store to buy groceries and carry the packages home, one package in each arm. And as a young kid, I had a little wagon, and I would help the women with packages, especially the elderly women. And I would put the package in my wagon, and I would roll the wagon and follow them to their homes and help them take the packages upstairs if there was an upstairs. And they would offer me a nickel tip, and I would say, no, I didn't do it for the money, and they would insist I take the nickel. Okay, and so I had a little business going on. I didn't mean it to be a business. I did it because I wanted to help people in need. But that's what I learned from my parents. So as I grew up, your role models for most of us become teachers. It becomes some of your teachers, and as you go to college, your professors, and you try and learn from people. Uh, some people you can relate to, and some people you can't. But my role models were mostly common people, not necessarily celebrities or anything like that. Mostly common people. The grocer on the corner. Uh, I always looked at him as a hardworking, no nonsense guy who helped a lot of people. Okay, if you couldn't afford to pay for the groceries, he'd give you a small line of credit if it helped you out in an emergency or something. Well, that's a hero to me. That's someone who's helping. My parents sometimes didn't have enough money to buy what they needed to buy, and he would give them a small line of credit. They'd pay for it eventually, of course, but that's the kind of, for me, that was hero stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not always just the celebrities that you can look up to. Sometimes it's everyday people that do great things that you can also look up to.
Yes.
hmm So, what can young listeners do to become positive leaders in their own schools, families, or communities, even before they can vote?
Well, they got to volunteer in school. They got to volunteer. They got to join clubs in school, and they have to run for school council.
hmm So, you're a published author and have hosted over 200 episodes of the TV program SCV 101. What have you learned about telling stories and interviewing people that can help a new podcaster like me?
Make it about them. Always make your interviews about them. You can interject your stories along the way if you feel a need to, but mostly it's about them. And most people you interview don't want to be as open as you want them to be. So that's a challenge that comes to you. Ask open-ended questions and wait for replies. And it's okay to have 5 minutes, or not 5 minutes, 5 seconds of silence, but you want the other person to answer.
hmm Okay. Among your books, including A New Kind of Mayor, is there a message or chapter you wish every teenager in Santa Clarita would read or hear about?
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, my first book was not really meant for teenagers, Profiles in Latino Courage. My second book, there are probably a couple of chapters in there that I would recommend for teenagers. Probably, I would say probably the second chapter of that book. Yeah,
hmm
is more. It covers my teenage years.
Okay. So if you could recommend one habit that helps you stay organized and focused across writing, speaking, business, and city leadership, what would it be?
Well, when I was younger, my habit was early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So my habit was get a good night's sleep, get up early, do what you have to do, stay focused.
That quote was by Benjamin Franklin, right?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Benjamin Franklin had a lot of good quotes. If you ever want to read a book with some incredible quotes that really were inspiring, uh, Benjamin Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac is a good book to read.
Okay. So what is your long-term vision for Santa Clarita over the next 10, 20 years, especially in terms of opportunities for the next generation?
I want to see a large theater that holds about 3,000 people instead of the pack, which holds 880 people. Because at 880 people, you're not able to bring in the quality of stars that you can at 3,000. Right? And by the way, at 3,000, you're not going to bring Taylor Swift in, but you'll get some good quality entertainment at 3,000. So I want to see a theater. I want to see a museum. We don't have a museum here in the city of Santa Clarita. Can you believe that? 250,000 people, no museum. Well, we need a museum. We also need a bigger conference center. The one at the Hyatt is not big enough. We need a conference center to attract more industry here in Santa Clarita.
Okay. What projects or initiatives are you most excited about right now that young residents should know about?
Well, we're building a lot of housing. Right? We need to build housing. And what young people need to know is if you want affordable housing, houses you can afford, you have to build more houses. If you don't have enough housing, then the bidding, the law of supply and demand, if you've got a low supply of housing and a large demand, the prices are just going to keep going higher and higher, and you young people will never afford a house here. Okay, but if we build more and more housing, and we build more reasonable housing, not just build those big 4 or 5 bedroom homes, but build 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes, okay, like we used to do in the 40s and 50s. And so make those more affordable. You build more of them, all of a sudden the demand for housing will be the same, but the supply of housing will be much more, so the prices can be maintained reasonable. And so to me, the future is we got to build more housing so the young people can afford to live here. Otherwise, all you guys are going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely seems like an important mission. So if you could ask the youth of Santa Clarita one question about how to improve the city, what would you ask them?
About
About how to improve the city.
If I could ask them how to improve the city,
Yeah.
I would ask them how do we improve the city. I wouldn't give them a leading question because I want to know how they feel and I want to know what their passions are. So I would just ask them, just like you say, how can we improve the city?
Okay. Very straightforward. So what is one mistake you made early in your career that turned into a powerful lesson, and what can young people learn from it?
Okay, so when I went from the corporate world, where I had 2 secretaries and I had a big office, corner office with window view of nice views, and I had a company credit card. I had a company car. Right, you get the picture?
Mm-hmm.
To starting my own business, because I had that corporate experience, I started my own business. I opened a nice office. I hired an experienced secretary, and I kind of mimicked what I had in the corporate world on a lesser basis, but kind of mimicked it. And in a year, I went out of business. The lesson I learned was when you start your own company, you are the guy or the woman who does everything yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you start out with no employees, you start out with no office, you start out of your garage or out of your home, and you have to do everything, including sharpen pencils and empty the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that, if your business is going to grow and it starts to grow, then you hire part-time help until you can afford full-time help. At some point, you're going to need office space. Lease the smallest office space you can afford that will fit your staff and fit what you need to do. Don't fake it until you make it. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Okay? Make it first.
Mhm. Okay. So, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received that still guides you today?
Whoa. I when you go through my resume and all the things that I've done and accomplished, I can tell you flat out, I didn't do anything by myself. Nothing. Nothing that I succeeded at did I do by myself. Whether it was a coach, whether it was a teacher, whether it was my wife, whether it was, in some cases, my children, okay? Guess what? You can learn from your children too. Remember, always be learning.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn from your children too. So nothing I've accomplished in my life I've done by myself. So the advice I would give anybody, always ask for help, because help is everywhere, but you got to ask for it.
Okay. And to finish, if every young person listening could remember just one sentence from you, what would you want that sentence to be?
One sentence from me?
Yeah.
Well, that's a tough one. One sentence? I would say I'll do two sentences. Forgive me. There's a famous saying called "God is my co-pilot." Here are my two sentences. God is not my co-pilot. God is my pilot. Remember that.
Okay. And okay, so that's a wrap on today's episode. Mayor Miranda, thanks for being here. And to our listeners, if you're thinking about starting something new, remember, your city's ready to help you take that first step.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Mhm.